Just a couple minutes late here. Not too bad. Not too bad for me. Typical, I guess. All right. So, talking about Pushing 100 here. Pushing 100 is my project where I try to see, or am currently trying to see, 100 films in 1 year, new release films in the theater in 1 year. It has been quite the challenge. I'm going to be looking back and forth because of weird stuff happening in the room. I've got the camera in a weird spot. I might have to dip and get something to drink. Go over here and grab something in a second. But anyway, if you're new to the channel and you're watching this later, this is a channel for physical media collectors, movie specifically collectors. I know there's record collectors and people collect CDs and all that kind of stuff, but this is primarily for movie and TV collectors, things that are on a DVD, a Blu-ray, or a 4K disc. If you collect those other types of media, I got mad respect for you. That's just not really my space. I kind of wish I could still collect CDs, to be honest with you, but the only time I listen to music these days is when I'm working out or out for walks or whatever, and a CD Walkman just doesn't sound like the right thing. So yeah, that's why I don't. Anyway, if you're new, you're watching again. I'm watching this in a later rebroadcast or whatever. Join the conversation. Hit that subscription button. Hit that notification bell. Join the talk. If you want up to the minute videos, I would recommend and request that you please also join me on TikTok, because I do TikTok videos really sort of as I progress with things, whether I'm going to the theater to see movies or making shopping trips, or those kinds of things are always going to be on TikTok, because I can just record those as I'm doing them. And if you want to get more into my actual movie reviews, you can follow me on Letterboxd, because I don't always succeed at writing reviews of things, but I usually do. But at the worst, the least that I'm going to do is at least put a star rating up there for every movie that I see in the theater. I don't know what I'm going to do next year. I don't know if I'm going to expand on that and do different things, or what I'm going to do. We'll see. So I had a stack of movies over here I was going to show you guys. I'll grab it here in a second. Let's see. So I have an all-region Blu-ray player, and I really enjoy that, being able to watch movies from everywhere. But now I've double dipped on something. I guess I'm going to have to go to eBay with this, because I picked up the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 from Vinegar Syndrome. Well, before that, I wanted the Screen Factory release, but it was out of print for so long I didn't get it. So I do have this guy, and now I've got to find something to do with this guy, and it's a Region 2 disc. So my local used place obviously does not want to buy it. So maybe I hate just flipping a single disc on eBay. So maybe I'll try to put together a group, like a pile of movies to sell. I would much prefer that. I want to open up some stuff before people start showing up. Hopefully people show up. I haven't done a live in a long time, so I kind of would understand if they don't. But my schedule has been so wonky as of late. It's hard for me to commit. It's hard for me to commit to the live, because it's just, my schedule is just dumb. And then, we have the holidays and all that business. Let's see. I just want to open. Come on. Just want to show you guys a Chrome tab. And there. Okay. So this is my Letterboxd. There's a list on Letterboxd. Let me get this mic a little closer. There's a list on Letterboxd called Cinema, and that list is my Pushing 100 list. It's just, like I said, it's just called Cinema. I probably should change the name of that to Pushing 100 just to make a little more sense. But This is the list that you can go and follow on Letterboxd to see the 100 films that I've seen this year in my attempt to do the Pushing 100 project. Now, I just saw number 99, and that was Avatar: The Way of Water. And so this is easy. I've got more than a week, a week and a half left, essentially, close to 2 weeks left before the end of the year, and I have to see one movie. So now it really is just kind of fun trying to figure out what movie I should wrap the Pushing 100 with. What should be my last movie? And if some people fall in here, I will let them help me pick. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go till about 9:30, unless people, unless people start showing up. People start showing up, I'll stick around a little longer. I'll do an hour. But I kind of just wanted to talk to people about Avatar: The Way of Water and get a feel for what other people who've seen the movie think. But anyway, until that happens, I'm going to run through some of what I've had to endure with this project where I'm trying to see 100 movies in 1 year. It really started. Now, the first movie, this list is actually in the order that I viewed them. And the very first movie that I saw for Pushing 100 was at my local art house theater. It's a movie called Drive My Car. And that was a rough start, you guys. I just want to see how long that movie was because I have forgotten. Now, IMDb has this listed as a 2021 film, but it was released overseas in 2021. It didn't come to the US until 2022. It was our first of the year. This movie was 2 hours and 59 minutes, and that puts it in the top 2 or 3 longest films I've seen this year. Avatar: The Way of Water, of course, is number 1. So, but this is right behind it. Now, imagine that it's a 3 hour long foreign film, a drama, essentially. Let me switch this. A drama. I'm working on it. I'm still slow at this, you guys. I'm sorry. I just am. So there we go. A drama. A renowned stage actor and director learns to cope with his wife's unexpected passing when he receives an offer to direct a production of Uncle Vanya in Hiroshima. So the majority of the film, like the story, follows him trying to put this play on, and a lot of it is spent with a young woman driving him in his car, and it's like this it deals with grief, and normally I would be all down for the creativity part because it deals with creativity, him trying to put this play on and that kind of thing, and those scenes are really the best scenes in the movie, but it is painfully long. It goes on forever and ever, and it's not good. I did not like it. So that was a very rough start to Pushing 100. And it was a very, very much a sign of things to come, honestly, because there are two sides to this coin of doing this project. I guess that's not even a fair, complete description of it. Let me bring the cinema list back up. I did it for a couple of reasons. I started this project. I was going to do this, honestly, before pandemic. And I had started it. I had started with some pretty bad movies. I ended in late February, early March, I believe, of 2020 with The Hunt, which is a really good movie. And then pandemic happened and I didn't get to finish. But 2022, this year, seemed to be the first year that we were fully back engaged with theaters, and that opportunity there was back. 2021 we were, but there weren't enough movies. We were still kind of in recovery as far as movies and theaters go. And it felt perfect to do this this year because so many people heralded the end of theaters during pandemic. There was a lot of people who were just so thrilled that movies were coming immediately to streaming because they didn't want to go out, blah blah blah. It's a very entitled, selfish way to feel, because you would rather your convenience is more important than the creativity of the artist, or people who like to see the art in the gallery in which it was meant to be displayed in. No one says, "Ooh, this picture of the Mona Lisa on my phone is just as good as seeing it in an art gallery where it's properly lit and you can have discussion with other people who are as passionate about seeing it as you are." Now, I'm not saying something like Transformers is comparable to the Mona Lisa, but art is in the eye of the beholder. Transformers might mean as much to someone as the Mona Lisa means to someone else. It's all art, so it should all be respected and treated the same way. So with that in mind, I was happy to jump in and do this project to sort of celebrate the recovery, the return of movie theaters post-pandemic, and kind of force myself out of my box of my walled garden of what I would normally see in the theater. To do this, you really have to be willing to see a lot of movies, and you have to see movies that aren't necessarily in your wheelhouse. And sometimes that worked really great for me, and sometimes it was a disaster. Sometimes I saw some really terrible things. I had to see a few musicals. I'm not into musicals. So that, most recently with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio did not go so well. I actually don't think that movie is that bad, but I'm not into musicals. So it was kind of torturous for me. But yeah, I saw worse things though. I'll get to my worst movie of the year because I can't tell you what my top 10 is because I still have at least one movie left to see. And before I do my top 10, I like to revisit some things that I'm not sure where they fall on the list. But I can absolutely tell you on my list right now what the worst movie I saw this year was. And that's easily going to be Where the Crawdads Sing. That movie is poorly acted. It's poorly directed. It's got quite possibly the worst rendition of a procedural element that I've ever seen in a movie. The courtroom drama part of this movie is laughable and not in a good way. That's the other problem with this movie is it's not bad enough to be enjoyed in that so bad it's good way. It's just bad. It's like it's a bad Lifetime movie. As it, I'm sure some of you, there's probably somebody out there that thinks Lifetime movies are good. Well, this is a bad version of a Lifetime movie for you, or Hallmark movie. It was atrocious. Atrocious. That's my worst movie of the year for sure. The few other movies that I will call out from my list that people liked that I did not. Worst Person in the World is a movie that I did not like. I did not like the people. I didn't like the story. And I know you're not really supposed to like this person, but that doesn't work for me. I need to be able to relate to some characters in some way. Even if it's a villain, you can still make me relate to them. And if you can do that, you got a winner. Interesting things on the list that I've seen this year so far that are different. I saw the Oscar shorts from the previous year, and I call them out here because each block was 2 hours, which I think counts as a feature length. And I think it's great and important to acknowledge short films. I love short films, and we don't watch them enough in the mainstream. It feels like they go to film festival to die, and you really should try and watch short films. So the Oscars always put together their blocks of animation, narrative, and documentary, and they do 2 hours of each type of short film, and they put them out in limited runs in theaters, and they were all in my art house theater, and I saw all 3 blocks. All that hype about short films that I just gave you, these 3 blocks were just okay. I don't really think I liked much of any of them that much. Nothing stood out as like groundbreaking, but that's not usually the case. It was just a poor year for their short film picks, right? Because I've seen a lot of amazing short films. I actually own a few on Blu-ray and DVD. So I will recommend. Okay, some hot takes on my list. for me. The Lost City, the Sandra Bullock, is that Channing Tatum, Brad Pitt. Not my kind of movie at all, and not something I need to own on physical media or really even to rewatch. But I fully admitted, and I admit it in my letterbox, that I laughed a few times at some of the jokes, and I found the charisma between the actors. It was better than I thought. There was nothing surprising. But if you like that rom com uh, kind of formula, then it's a good one. It's a good one for you to watch. Now, especially by the end of it, I felt very sad about all the plastic surgery that Sandra Bullock has had. I really wish she would just stop with that. She was a very pretty woman. She should just age gracefully, because I think she is the type of person who would just be really pretty as an older woman too. She doesn't need to do all that, but she's done it to herself. So unfortunate. But yeah, I will say, however, if you like that movie, I'm going to recommend Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile. I think those two do it better, that sort of adventure rom-com thing. I'll also even recommend Night and Day, which is a Tom Cruise movie that is the same thing and really good. It's really good. It's really fun. So those three movies I think are better than Lost City, but I went in just doing it for the number, getting that count up, and I acknowledge it was a reasonable enough time. So another hot take is I have Batman here at a 3 out of 5 on my letterbox. The movie has not aged well. Like, even then, it was probably honestly a 6.5 out of 10 for me. The last act is completely unnecessary. I didn't care for it. I would probably if I was readjusting my star ratings, I would probably drop that 2.5. I know that's 5 out of 10. I know. But I just don't think, like, I think there's a lot of good stuff in the movie, but I don't think it's that good. I just don't. The editing and assembly of the movie, I don't think was good. There's some failures in it. Pattinson is a good Batman, but not a good Bruce Wayne. And I don't know that I put that on him. I think that's in Matt Reeves' department, the director, and also the writing of it too. Let me see. Other hot takes in here. Yeah, I had to watch Morbius. I sure did. But Morbius doesn't seem that bad in comparison to some of the worst things I saw. Like I said, Where the Crawdads Sing, also Blacklight. I had to see 2 Liam Neeson movies. I saw Blacklight and Memory, and they're both really bad. Blacklight being the worst of them, but Blacklight is so bad it's good. Literally, emotions on a character's face change multiple times in one scene. Like, she has one emotion, they cut away and they cut back, and her emotion on her face is completely changed. That's just how ridiculous this movie is throughout. And all I could think about was Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon going, "I'm too old for this shit," looking at Liam Neeson thinking, "Yeah, you really are too old for this shit." There's a scene where he has to run and chase somebody, and he's barely running. He's just barely running. I like Liam Neeson. I just wish he would go and do something better, because he's feeling a little Bruce Willis at this point. All right, what else? X was one of the high points early in the year for me. I was excited because I actually enjoy Ty West's movies, especially House of the Devil, and X was a thrill. Probably still my best movie theater experience for the year, because I wasn't anticipating what I was in for, and neither was the couple behind me, and their reaction to one or two of the scenes killed me, because it wasn't put on. Were literally in shock, and I loved it. Lots of bland stuff too, obviously. I saw The Contractor, the Chris Pine movie. I like Chris Pine, but movie's bland. It's forgettable. The Northman I didn't like. Maybe that's a hot take. Let's see. I'm looking for things that surprised me that I liked that I wasn't anticipating liking. And that happened a lot. And I very happy that it did. That was what I was hoping for, as I would be pushed out of my wheelhouse and get some surprises going through the pushing 100 process. And um, so Men is a movie that really got ripped apart by certain critics. I think the biggest problem with Men is the implication that this is representing the woman experience. And I don't think that it was. For me, it was representing this particular character's experience. And I know it was written and directed by a man and the main character is a woman, but have we gotten to the point in the world where you can only write stories and direct stories within your gender because you don't understand the other gender? If that's where we've gotten, shit has gone really awry. If you take that sort of, oh, this represents all women thing out and say this represents the one character, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening here. Does it stick the landing 100%? No, I don't think so. But overall, I liked it. I like the balls to the wall ending. I feel like he went for it, did what he wanted to do, and that was pretty cool. I think the movie's okay. I don't think it's, perfect by any means, but I think it's okay. Vortex. I was very excited to get to see a Gaspar Noé film during my Pushing 100. I love this director. He is somebody who can really push my buttons and really impact me. And this movie, of all the twisted shit that this director has made and put me through as a fan, this may be the most, if it's not the most terrifying film, it's right up there. It is the most painfully sad film. And it's right up there and terrifying. It scares the shit out of me, this movie. So, Vortex is amazing. Firestarter. It's a movie about fire with really shitty fire effects. That should be enough said. It has a great John Carpenter soundtrack, but you can't hear it during the movie. It's mixed out. So they can all eat shit. Top Gun Maverick. I love this movie. Love it. And I feel a little weird redemption because I kept saying to people coming up to this movie that it was going to do really well because it had practical effects and a practical experience, and it's something that Marvel doesn't give us, DC doesn't give us. We don't get hardly ever anymore practical stuff, real stuff, and it gave it to us, and it's one of the biggest movies of the year, if not the biggest movie of the year. So many people I talked to came out of it and just responded to it and don't know why. They're like, I don't know why I loved it so much. It's not complicated in the story or anything. You loved it because it was real shit. Real shit matters. Real characters. And add to that the fact that it wasn't even stuntmen half the time. It was Tom Cruise doing his own shit. I mean, it's great. It's great. I'm just stalling. I'm going through my list a little bit. And I knew I was going to go through my list some during this live stream because I really want to see if anybody pops in before I start talking about Avatar. All right. I saw so many things. Jurassic Park was garbage. Lightyear was garbage. I saw the Bob's Burgers movie because I had to, because I needed the numbers. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I don't know enough about Bob's Burgers to honestly know. I thought it was okay in the theater. I reacted okay to it. Elvis is a very funny movie that I saw around the same time. It took me a while to see Elvis because I'm in Nashville, and I guess people here love Elvis because I went to the theater 3 times before I actually got into a screening. 2 of those times it was sold out. And I didn't buy my ticket in advance, because most of the time I did this on my own, because I just assumed I would be able to go. I didn't go opening weekend or anything like that. The 3rd time it didn't sell out, but my preferred seating was gone, and the theater was 3/4 full. And that's something that I've been dealing with a little bit this year post-pandemic, is if the theater is super packed, I've kind of been dipping. Like, I don't, especially if the numbers for infection are really high in my area, then I have been dipping. And I'll probably continue to do. Even seeing Avatar over the weekend, the time we chose to see it, our theater wasn't full. So I didn't feel cramped in, and I don't feel generally cramped in the IMAX anyway, because it's more spread out than a lot of other auditoriums. Thor: Love and Thunder, right up there for the worst movies of the year. It's not as bad as the one I mentioned, as the other two that I've mentioned, but it's right up there. It's a terrible movie. I didn't like Ragnarok because I don't enjoy Thor as a buffoon. I know a lot of you guys do. I don't enjoy that. The best rendition of Thor was Infinity War, because he was funny, he was still a fish out of water, his ego got him in trouble, all those things, but he was also the god of thunder, and that's the Thor that I grew up with in the comics that I really love. So that's how I prefer him. So I didn't like Ragnarok. I didn't expect to like this one, but I needed to give it a chance, and yeah, this one's real bad. And I think he finally pushed it too far. People finally see. The Black Phone. The Black Phone was raved as the second coming of horror films. It was fine. I said at the time, I gave it 3 stars. I said at the time, it's a pretty good little movie, but it's forgettable. It's not something people are going to be talking about 10 years from now. It's disposable horror. Nope. Nope was mostly a nope for me. I gave it 3 stars. I thought some aspects were good. I thought the cinematography was very good. I thought the acting by the main cast was very good. Kiki Palmer, I particularly loved her. But I don't feel like the character development and story was complete. I don't think it stuck the landing. Just didn't work enough for me. Honestly, I think looking at this score, that 3 was a little high. 3 was a little high. Did I really give it 3? I'm going to click and look. No, I didn't. I gave it 2. Okay, that makes sense. I don't know why this is showing 3 on the main page when I literally actually gave it 2. Also, right around that same time, I saw Bullet Train. Bullet Train has some fun characters, and I love Brad Pitt in comedy action. So there's a lot of good moments in it, but it's generally plot-wise not good, and the last 20 minutes feels like watching a cartoon. And I mean cartoon, not animated thing. The CGI is terrible. What else? DC League of Super Pets. I liked this movie. I went in again because I needed the numbers. Didn't expect to like it, but I really did. It's a cute little movie. I had a good time with it. Okay. There's so many in here. Okay, here's an example of a movie. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I didn't like. I still don't like it. Here's an example of a movie I would normally never see. And honestly, I probably won't watch it again. It's not my demographic. It's not really meant for me. But it's cute. And I guess I enjoyed it, the experience of seeing it for other people. Because I believe there should be movies for not only for every type of person, every ethnic group, every person. I think age is something that's often forgotten, and older people need a movie too. And Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris is a movie directed for older women, and I think it was very cute and very good. It's about a woman who her dream is to have a certain designer dress, and she wins the lottery, and she's kind of lived this mundane life of day to day. And she decides to just, after winning the lottery, just to say, screw it all. I'm going to Paris to get this dress, to have it designed. And she does it. And it's a very cute little comedy, like fantasy. And yeah, if you want to watch something with your grandma that she's going to like, you should watch Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris with her, because she'll love it and you'll have a better time than you thought you would. Beast is not a good movie, but I had like a reasonable time with it because it's not good. So a movie that has actually like gotten better for me is Fall. I only gave Fall 1 star because Fall is a bad movie. It has bad CGI. It has shitty characters, mediocre acting. but it has aged well for me because the last act, it's like the director and writer just said, screw it, the last act, and just let's just go for it. This thing goes batshit bonkers in the last act. And I love that. I love filmmakers that do that. I got to give it an extra half a point, half a star. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at 1.5. It's not good, but let me tell you something. This thing goes under $10 on Blu-ray. I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna put it in. And I'm gonna watch it again because of the last act. It's so fun, that last act. So that's an example. Usually for me, movies don't age well. They just don't. That one did. It got better. It got better. I need to watch it again. Okay, movie that surprised me. I was very happy to get to see Orphan First Kill in theater because it was going directly to streaming, and it did, but it got a limited theatrical run, and I got to see it. I was so happy I got to see it. And it's not, again, not a good movie, but shit, I had a good time with it. I gave it a 3 out of 10. It's so bad. It's good. I'll pick up this Blu-ray at some point and watch it for the Halloween season. The makeup effects and stuff they did to try to make the main actor look younger are not great, but I love what they did to the digital video. It was shot on digital video, of course, but I love what they did to the video to try and cover. And what they did is applied some film grain because it kind of softens the edges of things. And it made the movie feel like a 70s, late 60s, early 70s film. So fun, very fun movie. Halloween Kills sucks. Another example of a rom-com, again, I'll never watch it again, but at the time it was kind of fun to see, was Ticket to Ride. And it's because Julia Roberts and George Clooney have such good chemistry as people together. They're friends. They've done a lot of movies together. And watching it, I kind of felt a little bit sad because I feel like they might be the last of that dynamic duo of actors, because this newer generation of actors, there's some really great ones, but you don't have that combo that you see over and over again that are just so much fun. I think these guys are the last ones. You know, you had Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore for a while. They did a lot of that kind of stuff together, and you just don't have it now. You don't have it now. It's too bad. It's too bad. Black Adam, very bad movie. Hated it. Don't Worry, Darling, very mediocre movie. Barbarian, fantastic movie. Going in, I'd heard so many things that it was good, but it lived up to the hype. Guys, for me, it lived up to the hype. All right. So many movies I've seen this year. The Banshees of Inisherin, watch out for that one on my top 10. It's phenomenal. If you haven't seen the Banshees of Inisherin, you will get to see it soon. It's still showing in art house theaters, but I think it's coming to HBO Max next week as I record this. Call Jane has Elizabeth Fudge. Almost. Let's see. What is her? Elizabeth Banks. I don't know why I drew a freaking blank on Elizabeth Banks because I love her. Why am I drawing a blank on someone that I really like? Well, I sure did. But yeah, it has Elizabeth Banks in it, and I love her, and it taught me something. And it has Sigourney Weaver also taught me something about the early days of trying to help women get abortions before you could do it legally. Probably some shit we're about to move back to because all of a sudden you can't do it legally anymore. It's a good story. Till was a good story. Tar, I think you're going to see that on the Oscar race. Tar is phenomenal. I loved it. After Sun, you might also see in the Oscar race. I loved it too, but it is a very art house movie. Be warned. Triangle of Sadness was overrated. Black Panther I didn't like. She Said was good, but not very cinematic. Armageddon Time, also okay. Pearl, phenomenal. Pearl is weird, though, because it's a prequel to X, but it should not be watched prior to watching X. At least not the first time through. If you haven't seen X, watch X first, then Pearl. Um, yeah, the menu, phenomenal. I would wonder if we could see anything from the menu in the Oscar race because it's so good. It's so good. It does what Triangle of Sadness wanted to do better. So that's just some high points. You can look at the list if you want to ask me about any particular movie in my top in my 100 movies this year. Please do so. Otherwise, I'm going to jump ahead now and talk just briefly about Avatar: The Way of Water. But since I'm not chatting with anybody specifically, I'm gonna try to be spoiler free. So there's a lot of people talking about Avatar: The Way of Water. It just came out. I saw it Saturday. Um, let's see. Just pull it up here. Did I pull up the right one? I think I pulled up the. No, that's the first one. Yeah, that's the first one. All right, here we go. Um, so I think pull this down, and I'll just reshare here. There we go. Okay, so Avatar: The Way of Water. There's a lot of really mind-blowingly positive reviews for this movie, and I feel like this is almost like a generational thing because I remember seeing the first Avatar in theater and being completely mind blown over the visuals. It was stunning. And at that point, it was the best, most immersive cinematic experience I had ever had, especially with 3D. And I knew at the time the story wasn't particularly great. It it held together, but it was tropey. It was, it was a story that had been done over and over again better beforehand. So as the movie aged, especially once it was taken out of theater, watching it at home, you lost that visual immersion that you had in theater, so you had to pay a little more attention to the story. So you ask a lot of people, and I talked to a lot of people prior to, and this is anecdotal, obviously, it's not data driven, but my experience talking to people going into the new movie was they weren't interested because over the years they had committed themselves to the story a little more and understood that it just wasn't well written, wasn't well acted. None of that stuff worked. What worked was the visual. So 15 years later, we have a sequel coming out. And some of us who wanted to give Cameron a chance, like me, went in hoping that after 15 years and a sequel, doing a sequel, that he would improve the writing. We knew he was going to improve the visuals, but I wanted to see him actually improve the writing. He did not. He did not. This movie, what it did do was added more characters, more subplots, more layers of storytelling. But that's not a good thing if none of it is executed well. And it's not. The characters are predictable. The story arcs are predictable. They're cliche. And some of the dialogue and some of the subplots is really cringy. There's a bullying section that's really badly done and really, really cringy in its dialogue. The wooden dialogue delivery from the first film is back. So all the bad stuff that was in the original script is amped up in this new script. It's quadrupled. I'm not going to get into specifics. I'd love to give you receipts, but I'm not going to do that because it's too early to be spoiling this movie. And the visuals are a mixed bag. Now that's the biggest, most disappointing part for me, is they're a mixed bag, because the first film, at least in the cinema, was consistently stunning. And in all these years, nothing has come close to it. Nothing has come close to the original Avatar 15 years later. So we have the sequel, so you expect everything to be, I mean, it should be at least twice as good. But this feels like Avatar 1.5. Some things are noticeably incredibly better. Obviously, the water is incredible. When characters break the surface of the water, it's stunning. The bubbles and the movement of things underwater is stunning. Everything else is just good, bordering on amazing, but then he brings in the HFR, the high frame rate. Quickly, if you don't know what HFR is, typically a movie is shot and presented at 24 frames a second. What he did for the HFR, high frame rate segments of the film, and there are a lot of them, a good majority of the movie, is he doubled the frame rate to 48. Now, what that does is it amps up the clarity of what you're seeing. But you know what else is 48, 60, or 120 frames a second? Video games. So in those sequences, when it goes to high frame rate, I couldn't help, and including going to high frame rate plus the camera movements, I couldn't help but think of Gears of War, because it kind of looked like it. So these stunning cinematic moments are buffered by high frame rate video game looking moments. And in fact, there's the final act, there's a big battle scene that looks like a side scroller, because they're literally moving in that direction. It still has a depth, and obviously the 3D benefits from HFR because the clarity is upped, and it's something that happens with 3D often, is that clarity drops. But it doesn't look good. Now, why are younger people saying that it's stunning? Because they didn't see the original film in theater. And had the original film never been made, and just this one been made, it would be the most immersive, stunning animated film ever made. So I get it. I understand why they're saying that. And plus, we have multiple generations of hardcore video gamers that are just, that attach quality to HFR, because that's the way it's been sold to us in video game form. And the more clarity you can get playing a video game, the better, obviously. But that's not cinematic. It's not cinematic. So generally, I think it's inconsistent in its visuals. I will say the brightness is very impressive for 3D, as it should be, as the first one was too. So that, because 3D tends to get dim. But no, it looks good. It looks good, but like I said, it's Avatar 1.5. So if you're looking at it, and it's some aspects underwater and that kind of thing are just incredible. The other aspects are okay. Fire, maybe this is a hot take, but the fire in this movie still looks like shit. It looked like shit in the first movie. It looks like shit in this one too. Maybe the next movie will be about fire and he'll perfect fire. But as I'm watching the movie, I'm thinking, well, this is beautiful, but not the groundbreaking level of beautiful that the first film was. This feels like the first film plus some. So I'm paying more attention to the plot, and the plot doesn't work. It's 3 hours and 6 minutes or something like that, and the movie should easily be 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's way too long. The movie's zooming along in the first act, and then it grinds to a halt in the middle to actually become planet Earth. And I love and respect Cameron's social commentary about the environment, but it should be social commentary. It shouldn't be part of the actual script, and this one is. We actually stop to hear narration about how migration works. The movie also, a good portion of the movie is told through narration and exposition instead of actually storytelling. Just having a character off screen narrating directly to the audience is something I think we've kind of grown past to some degree in cinema. Used to be done a lot, but I think we're better than that now. I think we've story as far as storytelling, we've gone past that. You know, if he had found a way to integrate the narration into the story in some way, maybe it'd be better. But it's not. It's just narration for narration's sake, so that they can say something to you and not have to actually show you the story. I think this movie is not good. I think it's a 4.5 out of 10. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars on the Letterboxd. And I'm glad it was my 99th film and not my 100th film. I want to see something that's at least more challenging for my 100th film. I can hate my 100th film, but I want to be challenged by it. That's why I'm thinking of seeing Babylon, because I'm either going to really like Babylon or I'm going to hate it. Avatar: The Way of Water just made me sad. So, and I think what's going to happen with Avatar: The Way of Water, with this generation that's raving about it right now, is the same thing that happened with the previous generation that saw the first film. They're going to rave about it because it's so incredible in theater. And a year from now, when they look at it on Disney Plus, probably, and the visuals don't pop the way they did in the theater, they'll pay attention to the story, and they'll be like the previous generation with the third one and think, well, maybe I'll see it, because the story doesn't resonate or hold up the way Terminator 2 does. Terminator 2's visuals do not hold up, but that's a solidly written script that's still really fun and good to watch in multiple viewings. The first Avatar is not, and neither is this one. That's my take. Happy to talk to you about it in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the movie. And, I'm happy to do more videos and talk more about this, because I do feel like for a lot of people, this is a hot take. But let me know what you think, guys. Until next we meet, pull something cool off the shelf, share it with your friends and family, and remind them why physical media is the best way to watch films and TV at home. I'll see you guys on the next one.